Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
Los Angeles.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, May 5th. The LA Galaxy getting ready for Austin FC this Sunday on Mother's Day. So, an early Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Early Happy Mother's Day to all the fathers who are going to have to do all the stuff on Mother's Day as well. Godspeed, good luck with all that. Glad that everybody could join us. The LA Galaxy had a little surprise signing, a left back, some left back depth. We're going to talk about Chase Gasper. He talked to the media for the first time today to tell you our first impressions and sort of see where he's at and how he'll fit into the LA Galaxy. We're also going to get you ready, obviously, for the Austin game. Chicha has a little event coming up as well. And to help me do all this, we have a wonderful man. He's back. And I'm so glad that he could join us. Last time he was with us, he was out at our live show. So as long as he remembers to unmute his microphone, we would welcome back to the show Mr. Christian Miles. Christian, how you doing, buddy? Oh, Christian. Yeah. Oh, you got me. You got me. You got me. Yep, that was good. That was good.
The joke never gets old, by the way. Hang on, I got to finish retweeting ourselves, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's always good.
Yeah.
You got to get the social media like rolling and flowing, and I hear that's what all the cool kids are doing nowadays. So
big on the Twitter machine. That's what all the cool kids are doing. It's fire, right?
I'm not allowed to say that.
Way too old to say that word.
You see the gray in my beard. I literally just landed, by the way. I just, literally about 55, 60 minutes ago, and then we had to wait at their gate, and, the whole deal. So I was in Texas, and I was supposed to be on time, and I flew from Texas. Not me personally, the plane. I was inside the plane. Flew from Texas, landed in Orange County. Thank God my wonderful house is only 10-minute drive from Orange County. So over here, high-five my wife on the way in, and here I am. I'm joining you lovely people. How are you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Your beard is looking sinister and maybe a little jet-lagged, buddy, but I'm glad you made it. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. Lots to talk about. Big new signing. Huge game this weekend against tops in the conference right now. It's a massive test. I think we're getting to the point of the season right now where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah, it's starting to feel that way, right? We're almost a third of the way through the season, and a third of the way you can sort of say, hey, how is this team doing? How is everything? By the way, talk for a second. I have to go turn off my air conditioner. I forgot to turn off, so
absolutely,
you do that.
Absolutely. By the way, Josh, let's see speaking of jet, how we're going to be looking after the end of the season here. If we're looking this way right now, about the beginning of May, I'm excited. I want to talk about the last weekend game against Real Salt Lake, the flat, listless first half, the lack of energy. I know you and Panda were talking about, since there was just a lack of creativity, but also defensive resilience, which is a positive sign. Big error from Jonathan Bond. I'm sure we can dive all into that. But hey, I know we're gonna have to touch on that, but we want to, before we go forward, we got to take a look back. So let's get the dirty stuff over with, right?
Yeah,
I guess air our dirty laundry.
Yeah, I mean, just general. I feel like we have to speak in generalities right now, right? Because even the game against Real Salt Lake is a function of what the LA Galaxy have been doing in the games previous, right? And Greg talked today to the media, and I tried to pull and download all that stuff while I was sitting here at my computer scrambling to get the show up tonight. And it was like, going over 10 gigs, 11 gigs, 12 gigs, and then I had to upload into something else. And I'm like, this isn't going to happen. So I'm basically going to be paraphrasing all the talks. And I was able to at least join the media call today from the airport in Dallas. I was drinking an adult beverage at the time, so it was an enjoyable press conference, as it always is. And so it was just interesting to hear his take on. He said, he thinks they're playing too slow, which, by the way, yes, they are. And look at the teams that they've been playing against too, which you and I were talking about just before we started the show, which was defense first teams and teams that want to make you break them down. They sit in low blocks and they're going to say, go ahead, try to break us apart, the whole deal. Now, RSL, a little bit of a different animal because they do like to get out in transition. They do like to play a little bit, but once they scored a goal, that was it. It was shut down, locked down, park the bus, and let's sort of survive on that. So I don't know. Do you feel like with Vasquez, and this was the point we made on Monday shows, that without Vasquez on the field right now, that it feels like the Galaxy are lacking that creative force that really gets things going? That's how I see it. What do you see?
I see your point, and I feel that's point, but I also feel even with Vasquez on the field, there still is a certain degree and a lack of creativity, fluidity in the Galaxy. It's something that's been missing for a while, and a team that we expect. We've always said up until this point, this is a team. Don't worry about the attack. It's always going to get goals. You got players like Costa and Alvarez and Chicha,
right.
and Joveljic and Cabral. This team's going to get goals.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. You're not seeing it.
I'm not pressing the alarm bell, but the presumption was the goals are going to be there. Well, they're not, and there's no indicator that they are coming based upon the creative aspects of our play. And even with Vasquez in there, I don't see a consistent creativity. I don't see a conduit. I don't see a connection between the midfield line and the attack. And we always see Chicha dropping deep, which for me, I don't like personally.
I like it.
Because that means he's having to facilitate the play. He's a penalty box striker, but that's just kind of a symptom, I think, of a greater problem. So yeah, there is a real lack of creativity, and it's not time to hit alarm bells. The positive sign, like to your point, I think you were saying to Panda on Monday was, our defense has been pretty locked down. Fantastic effort, and the fourth best defensive record in MLS right now with just 7 goals allowed and 4 clean sheets so far.
Yeah,
so
4
one shy of last year already. So that's great. And for me, you always build from the back and defend first. So I think the attacking situation will sort itself out. There's a lot of wrinkles to iron out. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Greg's sort of take on it, is that things will iron themselves out. He's not concerned about it. Obviously, he sees what's going on. And listen, I know there are people who would love for Greg Vanney to be like, man, our defense is horrible, and like panic and throw red flags all over the place. That's not how Greg is, and quite honestly, that's not how I'd want a coach to be either, right? I want a coach to be like, we'll fix it. It's coming. It's one thing if you're saying you're going to fix it and you can't fix it through the whole year. And look, even Greg had problems last year saying he was going to get the defense right. The defense was never right last year.
Yeah.
As of right now, you said it, the 4th best defensive record, and we've sort of shown the stats that say they basically cut their projected goals in half. So if you figure they've allowed 54 goals last year, they're currently on pace to allow 26.4 goals, right? So they've cut it in half. And through 9 games, I get it, right? Now you're getting through 10 games. It's going to against Austin. Austin has a high-powered offense, so it's a whole other can of worms whenever you look at this. But bottom line is that I think the Galaxy are starting from a good base position this year, and I don't think, even when they were winning at the beginning of last year, that they were in that same base position, right? They didn't have the defense last year that was this base that could move forward, and now they do. And so I'm concerned only because there's a signing that happens at the deadline day with Chase Gasper, and it's another defender, and the Galaxy have, I think, 7 million defenders if I'm correct now. No, but that's not true. But it was a position of need, and it was a position Greg had been talking about since the start of the season, which was, hey, it's something to look at. But before we talk about Chase Gasper, because there's some interesting little tidbits to sort of pull from all of that. For me, it's been about players not showing up. And we can talk about, Kevin Cabral not showing up. We can talk about Douglas Costa not showing up. We can talk about Efrain Alvarez, quite honestly, not showing up. I pulled this because I went back and watched some highlights, Christian, and this is Efrain Alvarez, and I'll explain it for those of you listening on the podcast. So this is Alvarez whenever he received the ball in the 66th minute against RSL. This should have made it 1-1. He's in open space. He has a lot of time. There is nobody within about 5 to 6 yards of him whenever he receives this. And if I take this freeze frame and I show you where the goalkeeper is, and I show you where the attackers are, and I show you where the ball is, and the ball is only a couple feet away from Efrain Alvarez's feet, and I tell you that he basically doesn't get a shot off from here, there's something wrong with that. And listen, Kevin Cabral could be guilty of similar situations just like this, where you're in space, you have the time, and you don't convert and you don't get the chance. Here, in this particular moment, Efrain Alvarez decided to take a touch with his right foot in order to put it on his left foot. By the time he did that, they had the goalkeeper came out. Is that McMath, who's with RSL right now? I think it is. McMath was able to shut that down and cut off that angle. And so if you say that not even a shot got off, because McMath was on top of Alvarez whenever he kicks this ball, so really the shot doesn't even get off his foot, really, then that's a problem. And it's about these moments, right? And it's about converting chances, and it's about taking those chances, because I saw something, and people are right, and I think we're a little harsh on Costa. The finishing hasn't been there when he's been around. He's actually one of the team leaders in creating chances, right? So he is a force that can create chances and create balls and do that. The problem is nobody's converted those. And while I look at the expected goals and I can sort of say whether or not you should convert from certain spots, the Galaxy, for the most part, have converted from the really good spots that they've been in, because they're slightly underperforming their expected goals. Just barely. It's not much. And that's a good sign, too. It's moments like that where I'm like, that's where you could have stole. That's where you could have gotten a point back. And Grand Shearer has that same problem. Put the ball in the back of the net. That guy is if he could pick up 10 goals this year, Sam Grand Shearer, if he could get 10, and he has had, in the first 10 games, he's probably had 4 or 5 good chances to score goals. And he has the own goal that he caused, right? So he at least has that one sort of on his docket. These are the things that need to pick up in my mind. Where do you sit on all of that?
I mean, you kind of ticked all the boxes there. Going back to Efrain, it's one-dimensional, if we're being frank, and needs to run on and hit that first time. And you go back to your clip, you even see the positioning of the goalkeeper. You know what Efrain's going to do. He's going to take that touch with the right and trying to bend it over across the keeper in that upper goalkeeper's right-hand corner. And the goalkeeper's perfectly positioned for that. So even if he did get a shot up, it would have been totally telegraphed. And, the Galaxy are guilty of overplay, and they're guilty of a poor decision-making in the final third right now. And the chances aren't coming in abundance, but there are half chances there that need to be taken. In the odd corner kick, the set piece attacking is kind of left a lot to be that's a pitch as well. Yeah, which we can talk about.
That's a great call, though. The set piece attacking has been non-existent, and they have big bodies in there. They have Derek Williams, they have Sega Coulibaly, which, by the way, we'll give you an update right now. Sega Coulibaly is fine, expected to be back and ready for this game against Austin.
Huge miss.
Yes.
Last weekend.
Yeah, so he should be fine. I'll give you the other injury update, which is Victor Vasquez is not expected to be available this weekend. Greg Vanney said he took a step back in training yesterday. He said, and Greg was trying to sort of figure out how to approach this, Christian, and he basically said, listen, Victor just didn't feel right? There was something. It's not like he re-injured anything. It's just he's not there yet. And so they actually took sort of a step backwards to say, okay, you were training yesterday, let's have you not train with the team today. And so right now it seems that the Galaxy are relying on, I think, a 35-year-old Victor Vasquez to really provide a lot for this team, and he can't handle the games right now. So I think that's a little concerning.
Yeah, and I know you guys have talked about a cam or a central attacking midfield to create a presence, and wherever you want to assign the position to, that just it's not there right now. And you can't ask that of Victor Vasquez, especially at this stage of his career. He's a sublime player, great touch, and has a great delivery, but his fitness speaks for itself, and he's not a reliable, consistent 90-minute guy. So the Galaxy, I think that's one of the biggest missing pieces right now. I think they've filled in a lot of the great pieces that they've been missing. They've bolstered the defense, they've added steel to the midfield, and now we're seeing, we've got strength on the wings here. Concerned about a lack of end product, but there's a distinct lack of creativity that comes to the Galaxy or generating chances. Interesting note, when I was doing the Nashville game and Costa reverted to his central role, He absolutely sliced and picked this Nashville back line to pieces in the last 10 minutes, sliding through balls in, playing it through, dropping off to the right. He was absolutely brilliant, which led to the decision, I think, for Greg to push him a little bit more underneath and let Alvarez, start on the right-hand side. Now, those two obviously interchanged through the Real Salt Lake match, but I can see the logic in the thinking of Greg where it is there for Douglas to play that. But very disappointing effort. I thought he was extremely flat, ineffective, clearly way off the pace in terms of fitness right now. He's nowhere near fit right now, and it shows. Great burst of acceleration, but beyond that, there's not much to it. So that's concerning, and it kind of strengthens and goes more to the point where that was going to be a conduit, and I can see the logic that could plug that hole. But it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't. And listen, we've talked about the Cam, discussion all the time. And there's even some arguments that the way Vanney plays, maybe he doesn't exactly need a 100% central attacking midfielder in there. Now, no. I think he does. I think he needs somebody who's at least creative, right? And
well,
so
if you go back to what you and Panda were talking about in that 2 front,
right,
you can play a diamond. And that's where you start talking about it. When you're going 4-3-3, you're not going to have a 10.
Right.
So if you've got a one underneath and you're playing, basically like a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-4-2 diamond,
right,
then you're going to have that central attacking midfielder. That's not a system that he plays a lot of, but because of the ineffectiveness that we've seen from his situation right now with certain players and the tactical scheme, we may see a rethink. And we saw the chances that it bared in the late going against Real Salt Lake. And look, I know it was throw everybody forward.
It is.
Throw the kitchen sink at these guys. But it bared fruit. It bared chances, and it's something worthwhile to consider because right now, this tactical scheme and the way things are starting from minute 1 really isn't working right now. And I have every confidence Greg's going to figure this out. It's by all means not pushing the alarm bell, but that's where we talk about systems. And I think when you're talking about a central attacking, a number 10, so to speak,
right,
that's where you have to rejig the system, and that's not Greg Vanney football. That's just my impression. I could be wrong, but that's what I see.
I feel like he's defaulting a lot to the 4-2-3-1, and whenever you have that, I feel like he could use somebody in that 3 that's a central playmaker. Now, Vasquez is not a central playmaker. He plays there in terms of he lines up there, but he actually
he goes left.
He peels off to the left hand side. That's where he sits, right?
Yeah.
And then that works sometimes with Costa whenever he's on the wing, right? Because he comes inside a lot. So there's space for him to come inside there. The problem I have is whenever you have Alvarez who comes inside and you have Costa sitting inside, then there's crowdedness in there. And I feel like they defer too much to each other in some of those cases. Certainly in the RSL game, I didn't feel like there was enough fluidity between either their switches or, enough danger. I really do like Costa playing in the middle, and I wonder if Greg would throw in a Grandsir on the right-hand side and play Costa in the middle instead of Alvarez, and would put in, I know everybody's going to hate it, but the Cabral on the left-hand side, really play 2 flagging wingers that like to get up and down the field to try to get in and around Austin and how they do, but 2 guys who also work really hard on the backside too, right? It's at least a thought.
No, I think if you're going to play with wingers, you need wingers, and you need pace. Efrain Alvarez is not a winger.
Yeah, he doesn't have pace.
He's just not. He gives you no pace. So that's my kind of conundrum right now. And so, but you will get this with Grandsir, and you will get work rate. And look, there's a question of his final product. That's fine, but you will get work rate and you will get pace, and that is something that has to be marked. And the same thing, for all of the ineptitude of Kevin Cabral, you will get a work rate and you will get pace, and it will open things up. Now, I know believe me, I'm amongst the detractors right now.
Me too. I've jumped firmly on that. I'm all about letting him getting some minutes, but I don't think he should be starting in a lot of these minutes.
He's had his time, and you know what? It's a time to take a rest. And I fully expect he will be held out the first 11 this weekend. That's just my gut feeling. I think he should. I think it's time for him to just reassess, take a perspective from the bench. And perhaps look at his brother's goal against Phoenix Rising on Sunday night.
Right.
Phenomenal. But reassess. But anyway, if you're going to play with wingers, you need wingers.
Right.
And Efrain Alvarez is not a winger. And so that's where I kind of I know there's an inverted presence when you play a lefty like him, and that left foot is golden. And Greg called it a magic wand, and he's absolutely correct. But it's one-dimensional right now, and it's all too predictable. So, if Plan A isn't working, here we go to Plan B. Plan B came into effect late on. Every good team needs a Plan B. I think we're seeing right now, Plan B is actually having more of an effect than we saw from the first 11 than Plan A. So I'm really intrigued to see how he's going to set up this weekend.
Do you feel like, though, you're going against one of the most offensive teams, and so the counter to that and to play in something comfortable is you're going to play and start in a 4-2-3-1. You're going to keep the midfield with 5 guys in there to sort of slow down Austin because you know they're going to get out, you know they're going to want to run. All the things that they've done, which makes them one of the best offenses so far, and quite honestly, one of the better teams in Major League Soccer if you take it on results alone. Whether or not you believe in them, which I don't, not yet. And by the way, even if they beat the Galaxy, I'm not sure I still believe in them. They're undefeated at Q2. It's a tough place to play. All those things. I feel like the default position, at least if I'm coaching, isn't to go and put a 2-forward setup into that because you're losing defense, you're losing stuff in the midfield, and you know that they're going to test you on the wings and through the middle with a Rudy and some of the other guys that they have. So for me, it's keep 5 guys in the middle. Now, it doesn't mean that if the game is 0-0 and you've run them into the ground, which is a possibility, especially with them at home, that you don't say, okay, let's go for the jugular, which, by the way, I think Greg would resist on the road. And that's why all of this stuff sort of leads me to you're not going to get that lineup that you want against Austin right now. And you're not going to get the 2 forwards unless the Galaxy are losing. If the Galaxy are losing, I don't think Greg has any problem pushing and throwing the kitchen sink because what are you going to lose by more goals? Losing is losing up to a certain point, And so if you throw the kitchen sink at it to try to sort of come back in that, but I want to see it. I want to see the Dallas game that's coming up is one of those that I'm sort of like, that could be a 2-forward game.
It's there for that. Yeah, no, yeah. If you're that setup that you're speaking of, I think speaks to that game more so than this game. This is going to be a game that's going to be predicated on width. It's going to be a game that's predicated on pace. It's going to be open,
right?
And it's going to be a breath of fresh air because for the last 3 games, I've seen teams that are basically in a defend first mentality. Even though it wasn't exactly the state in the first half against Real Salt Lake, it resorted to that in the second half, and we saw it, against Chicago, which was in a low block all day. So, which will be, I think it's going to be a lot more pleasing on the eye. But yeah, my hesitation is those two, and you have a double pivot in the center of the park there, and Delgado needs a partner. And the big decision is, can you entrust either a Raveloson or a Delgado more to the latter in that sole holding midfield role by himself? Because that is a huge responsibility, and then you're sacrificing a defensive presence to add to the attack. That's where I think the crux of the tactical decision will be made, whether it be a 4-3-2-1, a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3, whatever. We can throw numbers at it. That's, I think, at the crux of the decision. And you look at this team, they scored 22 goals.
Right.
And the league's best right now this season. And they are forced to be reckoned with Driussi and Fagundes. So, and those are players that like to create both underneath and in wide areas, which is going to be a massive test for the fullbacks as well. I don't think he's going to abandon the double pivot right now. And I think he's going to keep with Raveloson and Delgado. And how he sorts out the rest of the setup and the front 4, so to speak, is going to be very interesting.
Let's get to the new acquisition, because I think we've sort of set it up for what is going to possibly happen as we lead up into Austin. We set it up in terms of, this is a possibility of looks that you could see in the player personnel that you could see. So we're sort of leaning on that a little bit. Let's go to the acquisition now. A surprise in that the LA Galaxy decided to pull the trigger in this window a little bit. But there's some really interesting things that sort of fall in place with this. And it's a position that Greg Vanney has said, listen, there's 2 places that Greg Vanney said they needed backup. He wanted defensive midfielder backup, and he wanted the left back backup. He said, especially with Villafana injured, that type of thing, they said, they need somebody to back up Raheem Edwards, and that might be the case. So they went out and they acquired Chase Gasper from Minnesota United. Basically, it's an exchange for $450,000 in 2023 general allocation money. And Gasper is under contract right now with the Galaxy now through the end of the 2025 MLS regular season. So they pick up basically his contract. LA will also send a conditional $300,000 in general allocation money if certain performance metrics are achieved. And the Galaxy will retain $220,000 of Gasper's 2022 budget charge, while Minnesota will pay the remainder of that budget charge. I don't know how much he's making, but the Galaxy are basically getting a discount on his salary this year. And who knows, it could be in equal or slightly less equal than the $450,000 they're going to send next year in general allocation money. But you feel like this is a deal that they were working at, and the numbers were important on because of the salary cap hit and everything else that's sort of coming. So the Galaxy will just take that $220,000 salary cap hit. So whatever he's getting paid this year, the Galaxy only hit $220 on that cap. The other thing is that if you add those two numbers together, by the way, which, $300,000 and $450,000, so $750,000 in general allocation money, it's a significant chunk if all of those things play out. This is not a small move. But in Gasper, you get basically, as Greg Vanney said, a starting caliber left back, who is an extremely hard worker. And I think Greg called him more of like a traditional left back, which means he's not going to get forward as much as Raheem Edwards. And Edwards is not a traditional left back, so that's fine. He's not going to get forward as much, but he's a defense-first kind of guy. He's going to play defense. He can still get into the attack. He can still put crosses in. But if you saw Raheem Edwards running in the last two games, dude looked like he was out of gas because he's been going 140% every single 90-minute game that he's sort of been playing. So you lucky man, you have been covering Chase Gasper because he was with UCLA for 3 seasons before he transferred to Maryland. Yeah. And so you got to see him, and you covered him whenever he played for UCLA. So what do you get with Chase Gasper?
You hit a lot of it on the head, Josh. He's a defend first, extremely hardworking. He's a monster of a tackler, has a voracious appetite for the game. I was talking to my friend Callum Williams, who's one of the media people at Minnesota United this evening, and he said if I had to give you a stat that kind of summed up Chase Gasper in 3.5 years with Adrian Heath in Minnesota, he's had 1 assist. So he's the antithesis of Raheem Edwards,
right?
If you would be, and he's a stay-at-home left fullback, and that will give variation to the Galaxy because the way I'm seeing it is Julian Araujo is deferring to Raheem Edwards, and Raheem Edwards is playing the Araujo role of 2021, except on the left-hand side. And to his credit, he's been brilliant, with the exception of this past game, which I thought he was quite poor. So it'll be interesting if you throw a Gasper in there. Not only do you bring in the possibility of going with 3 at the back,
right,
but in possession, it's always a 3 with the Galaxy. They bomb their fullback, and most of the time it's Edwards, and you leave Williams at the back with Koulibaly and Araujo to hold things down. Now you throw this Gasper in there, and it could free Julian to make his runs up to the right, and we'll see more of the Julian Araujo we saw in 2021. So he's a solid pro, committed, just a real class professional. And my people in Minnesota tell me, really good guy, team player, good locker room guy. And after watching him at UCLA, I saw him break his leg at UCLA, and it was really sad. It wasn't good, but the way he responded, he rehabbed like a monster, got right back at it, and didn't miss a beat, was the same player that he was before. So I think that speaks volumes to his character, and I think he's going to be a great asset. A team, it'll give him more steel back there. So and more, tactical options.
Yeah, and that's what Greg Vanney actually even pointed out. He said, this also gives us a chance to play both Raheem Edwards and Gasper and move Raheem Edwards into a more advanced role, put him into a winger role, or a wing back, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. I would doubt they would put Gasper in to sort of put into a 3-man back line because I think they have 3 center backs that do well. And if you're going to play, sort of a 3-5-2, and whenever they have played those, I think that's, you might bring in Zavaleta instead of somebody like Gasper. But if you want to stay in a 4-man back line and you need somebody, to sort of gas it up and down on the wing for a little bit, and you want to keep Raheem Edwards because he's been playing well in that game, and you think that he could possibly add something to it, you can put Edwards up on that left-hand side. You can let Gasper stay home at left back role, and that does provide something. Greg always likes tactical options.
And you says,
yes. But every time Greg signs somebody, he tells us about all the options he has, right? Like he's really all about that flexibility and really trying to assess that. And you saw the flexibility that they had just in terms of what they did in the second half in the RSL game, because they go to a 4-4-2, and whenever that doesn't produce the results, eventually they go to a 3-5-2, right?
Yeah.
And so you see them progressing into these, from a base set of a 4-2-3-1 into a 4-4-2 into a 3-5-2, and that's all in one game. And that doesn't even count. That's mostly just attacking wise that I can say those. A lot of times they defend in almost different ways and shift around a little bit. But for the most part, that's where it is. So there is some baggage that comes along with Chase Gasper a little bit as well. And this was back on March 16th. Basically, MLS announced that Chase Gasper had voluntarily entered the MLS substance abuse and behavioral health program for personal reasons. Now, he certainly seems willing to talk about it, and we talked to him today. And he was actually in Malibu, at Cliffside in Malibu, which is a quote unquote rehab center or rehabilitation center. And whenever he talks about, hey, anybody who's suffering from anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, you don't have to basically do this in the dark. You need to trust people. You need to talk to people and get the help that you need. And he wants to be a spokesman for that. That being said, he seems like he's very comfortable. And the other part of it was that he was out here in Malibu. That's where he decided to enter his program. He seems comfortable in Southern California, obviously with the UCLA connection, and now with this Malibu connection that he had while he was out here going through that. The league basically puts him on this list, and they have to clear him back to play. I imagine that has happened. He played in a U.S. Open Cup game. That was his only minutes for Minnesota this year. But having said all that, he seems like a guy who wanted to move here to Southern California and wanted to have basically that support system that he created whenever he was out here in place now that as he's trying to return and play. And perhaps Minnesota was a little too far away from the West Coast in order to have that support system in place. So all these things, listen, he seems very open to talk about it, which is really interesting, because most of the time guys are, I'm not going to say anything. And, he mentions in all three, I know people are always trying to figure out, well, what do you go in for? And, whether or not that's going to be an issue. He mentions anxiety, depression, substance abuse every time he talks about kind of why he was there. So you could probably figure it's a combination of those three, at least according to what he's saying. And so, having said that, he seems super motivated and super centered right now and happy to be back and playing soccer. He's got a lot of life in him right now.
And this surprised me about him, because after, when I saw him at UCLA and saw him in his time in Minnesota, the guy gave everything. He left everything out there. I mean, whatever Chase Gasper had in him as an athlete and as a player was out on the field. And he gave everything. So normally when you see that with these players that are struggling with abuse, it's lethargy in performance, it's lackluster, attitude problems, things are out of sync. That's not Chase Gasper.
Right.
At all. And you're very much team guy. So I was actually quite surprised, just, from a neutral's point of view and seeing this from afar. So hopefully he'll get things ironed out. I think I have every confidence it's going to be a great depth signing. For me, what actually is kind of the issue we're not talking about right here, Josh, is the situation with Jorge Villafana, where we've been led to believe it's a bone bruise and everything, and he'll be back soon. And we haven't seen Jorge since the middle of last, August of last summer. And
well, then he had surgery, right? Because he went in and got scoped on his knee, and again, it was supposed to be clearing this out. Greg Vanney made it very clear today, actually, which was, again, a little surprising. I'm still, by the way, I still have a horrible cough, and so I have like 7 cough drops in my mouth right now, just to make sure that I don't start going sideways like I did last week. But Greg Vanney made it very clear. He said, specifically, Jorge is not recovering the way that we had hoped he had, right? And so there is something there. They are concerned they're not going to be able to get Jorge Villafana back to where he was, maybe even back to playing. We don't know how serious it is, but it does mirror a little bit of, maybe Robbie Rogers whenever he got hurt. And then even going back to Chase Gasper as well, I was thinking about the anxiety and the depression and some of those other things. And we know that there are LA Galaxy players in the past that have suffered with depression with Landon Donovan. Also, Josh Saunders entered the league's protocols at one point, if everybody remembers. Those are the two off the top of my head that sort of said, these guys are able to play. They're able to contribute. They're able to do it. I imagine Gasper is. But the Villafana news is a lot bigger than sort of was able to, be broadcast while I was out traveling.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Greg Vanney's basically saying, I don't know if we're going to get Jorge back. And so you're paying him from whatever. And Jorge Villafana was an off-season addition about the time by Dennis DeClosa, if I remember correctly, while Greg Vanney was basically coming in. We don't know if Vanney had anything to say about Villafana because he technically wasn't. Vanney wasn't signed before Villafana, I think, was announced, and so all these things sort of added together to make it, Villafana coming in right whenever Greg Vanney came in as well. So it doesn't look like that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about he was the Galaxy first choice left back for the 50%
at least last season,
2021.
Right,
and then things faded off. So this is not just some person that came in and made a cameo and had a fleeting appearance. So hopefully he gets it ironed out, works it out. I pray the best. He's a great person, Jorge Villafana. I've known him a long time, and I really hope he can work it out because if anybody deserves to come out of this on the right end, it's him. And his work ethic and graft and his record speaks for itself. I mean, he's a guy. When I remember Jorge as a pimple-faced young kid when he was 17 years old, and he would clean church pews with his dad in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. And then he won the reality show, and we know the rest of the story. So it's Sueño. I mean, he's the dream. So hopefully he can figure it out and get back to where he was.
Whenever Hammer was living in SoCal, he got one of his neighbors came up to him and goes, "Hey, do you know this guy Jorge Villafana?" Right? And Eric's like, "Yeah."
Then Jorge Flores.
Yeah, right. And he's like, "Yeah, I know that. I know this guy." And the whole deal.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, he was trying to buy a house over here." Right? The whole deal. This was whenever we had just heard that Jorge was getting ready to sign with the LA Galaxy and stuff like that. So it was funny that Hammer gets like the inside view because his neighbor comes over and knows that Hammer has that has the connections. It's like, "Hey, do you know this guy? Maybe he's going to buy my house or buy my neighbor's house." I forgot exactly how it was, but it was at least.
Wait, or is this the real estate person going MLS? Oh wait, sorry, I'm on MLS Soccer.
I got lost somewhere. The values on MLSsoccer.com not nearly as high as MLS, right? That's how it works.
Exactly.
Very good, but no, I thought that was all. It's interesting to hear Greg be honest, and I think we kind of knew something was up because we haven't heard of Villafana coming back, and so it has sort of been a drawn-out process. And again, with Robbie Rogers, we had heard rather early on that his ankle was bad enough that he was going to retire, but nobody wanted to say the R word until basically for another year and a half. But we knew that's where it was. With Villafana, I haven't heard that, but you have to imagine that if it's not coming back, if he's not going to be back in time for the season, he's at an age where you probably don't come back from that then. So we could have seen the swan song of Jorge Villafana last year, which is sad. But very few players get to walk off the field. Most of them are carried off the field whenever you look at that, and that's one of those harsh realities of sports. A lot of guys never get the chance to even show their talents at the top level, and of those guys, very few of them get to walk out, on their own, and very few of them sort of get to walk out holding a trophy, right?
Yeah.
So you look at all those different things, and it's just to me, it's always like rolling dice, and just the odds of everything are so small.
I don't want to beat to death, but put a cap on it. If ever there was a guy who maximized every ounce of his ability, Jorge Villafana epitomizes that. He got every ounce of ability, commitment out of him, just through his pure professionalism, his graft, his hard work. I admire him and what he's done and how he's risen to become the player and the man he's become. I mean, it's been a great story. So hopefully everything will work out for him.
The LA Galaxy put out a press release today involving LA Galaxy and Javier Chicharito Hernandez. Chicharito is going to host a panel with Dr. Armando Mondo Gonzalez about mental health and peak performance on Tuesday, May 10th. Basically, they're giving us a heads up on that, and it's going to take place, I believe, at Dignity Health Sports Park at the American Express Stadium Club on May 10th, on Thursday, May 10th at 12:30. I'm sort of looking to see if there's places where that's going to be broadcast. I would imagine it's going to be broadcast to something, or at least recorded and sent out. They're basically telling us, the media, because they're asking us to RSVP if we want to go in person to that. So that's what's going on. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that is coming down as well. So, Chicharito, I think, by the way, right up his alley in terms of Mental Health Awareness Month and sort of tying that in. There's nothing that Javi likes to talk about more than sort of the mental side of soccer or of life, quite honestly. Did you read that article about him in The Athletic?
Yes.
What'd you think of it?
I thought it was great. One, I didn't know he was such a big gamer, which is interesting. But yeah, I followed his career, ever since he came out of Guadalajara, and he and Carlos and they went upon their European jaunts. And he's always been a guy who's very emotional, very high strung. I had no idea that he was struggling with mental issues like that and esteem issues. And it's kind of nice to see him come out, because it's really hard for an athlete to come out and just be frank about it and expose himself, right, and be vulnerable about it. So kudos to him. I think it's kind of a brave thing for him to do. And some say he gives too much and he shows too much. I think Javi is who he is, and that is his strength. He just wears everything on his sleeve. He gives you everything, and I think with him becoming so revealing about this, he's reinvented himself as a player on the pitch, and he's rediscovered his dedication to the game, because he went through that slump and it was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And he's embraced this, and he's acknowledged it, and he's been forthcoming about it, and he's seen it in his commitment, and he rededicated himself. He's fitter than ever, and I think his play has spoken volumes to that.
Yeah, he does seem to have, and I only really know Javi from covering him with the LA Galaxy, but certainly, in 2020, and you saw how out of shape he was, and just how it looked like he didn't want to be there, and night and day difference basically between 2020 and 2021, and now it's that continued sustained effort. He's a guy who hasn't scored in the last couple games, and who's a guy who 3 games, so it's a guy you're going to want to get back on the scoring streak. You don't want him, but he does this. This is how he was last year too, which is he usually scores in streaks, and they come and they go. And it's about the Galaxy finding him. I don't think he's been wasteful on a few chances, but overall he's had a handful of chances. It's not like he's had a ton of chances to sort of make or make mistakes on.
Yeah, he has been wasteful. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, he's Javi, and he's brilliant. And the thing is, the fact that we're talking about this, the fact that he's such a fox in the box, a poacher, that he's so clinical in front of goal that when he misses a chance, you're like, what has he done?
Yeah.
What are you doing? But points to a bigger problem. The Galaxy don't have goals throughout this team, and they should be getting goals throughout this team. There's no balance. We're not getting goals from Cabral. We're not getting goals from midfield. We're not getting them from Raveloson like we got last year when he punched in 5. We're not getting him from Alvarez. The Galaxy need support, and he's not getting it. And he's also, we were talking about earlier in the pod, Josh, where he becomes a facilitator so many times throughout the season, where he drops into that deeper role and then tries to facilitate the play and create for others. For me, Javi Hernandez in the penalty box is where he belongs. He needs to have the play facilitated to him to play to the strength of Chicharito Hernandez. And so
let me counter, and I wanted to counter it earlier. As usually happens, I get sorry. I have ADD, so once you talk about something else I want to talk about, I forget anything I wanted to say before. One of the things I'll say about him dropping deep, though, is that he usually gets things going, and then he usually arrives back in the box whenever he does it. So it's not like he pulls out of the box in order to get it. Usually, whenever he pulls back into the midfield, it's back at center, at the middle of the field. He has time then to make the sprints and make the runs, and he's usually the guy who will be on the end of the ball whenever that happens. So for me, I'm fine with that as long as he still ends up being in the box. I don't whenever he drops off and then there's a play and there's people in the box, but because he had to drop off in order to be the creator, he's not there to be the finisher. So as long as he can get into the box and finish after he's played creator, I have no problems with him dropping. But I think I'm fine with him dropping whenever it's more the middle of the field than I am whenever he's dropping in the final third in order to come back and sort of try, he gets outside the box in order to try to play the ball and create something, and then he doesn't have time to get back into the box whenever that happens. So that's my, I never want to take anything away.
Point, Josh. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, I never want to take anything away from him because I think he is a creator in a way, and I think a lot of times, the poacher. You're absolutely right. He's a poacher. That's what he's made his bread and butter on. Get him in the box.
Striker.
Yeah, let him. That's great. But I think he does create. He can make passes that other guys can't make, right? Outside of Douglas Costa and maybe Efrain Alvarez, who I think has great vision on passing in a lot of ways. But outside of that, there's other guys. Grinster's not a great passer. Cabral's he's a horrible passer sometimes, especially whenever it comes to the final ball. The problem with Alvarez is he's very much a one-trick pony with his passing, which is like, okay, it's going to be on his left foot, and he's going to either try to take it over the top on you, or he's going to try to cut a line. And if he's going to cut a line, he usually cuts the line not in across the field, but usually back to the side that he encroached on, right? I start watching some of these guys, and you can really start to feel their tendencies. And as we cover guys year in, year out, you see these tendencies just get solidified. And for me, it's like if Alvarez hits that ball that I showed earlier on his right foot, everybody knew he was going to stop and take that touch, right? You knew it. I knew it. Everybody. But if he hits it on his right, nobody's expecting that. And if he hits it on his right, I bet he scores. It doesn't even have to be a good shot. Nobody was set up and ready for that. So I just want these guys to work away from their tendencies a lot.
Yeah. And going back to your point about Javi, and you're absolutely correct. And it's a testament to Javi's, character, his graft, and his commitment, where he drops to show, gets into the box, and more often than not, he's on the receiving. But it also points to the fact he's not getting support.
Yeah,
and that's my issue, and that's where I have concerns about that. So it would be nice to see him have the support so he can play to his strengths and do what Chicharito Hernandez is known for doing. He is one of at the top of his game. He's one of the best penalty box strikers that we've seen, for the last 10 years throughout the world. So, and he can play that role of playmaker, and he is able to do that. I would rather have him in the penalty box, playing to his utmost strengths and doing what the Javi Fernandez that we've saw, back at Manchester United, Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, and so on. And do that, but and also you're absolutely right about the one-dimensionalists, one-dimensionality. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
beyond my lexicon. And it's the Galaxy like an inverted presence. Not to get all X's and O's and confuse everybody, but
everybody likes that. Everybody likes that. Greg likes talking about tactics, and our crowd usually we didn't start off that way, but certainly I think that understanding the tactics that are at play. And listen. The Galaxy, and you can plug your ears because I'm going to go after Galaxy here for a second. The Galaxy not showing the starting formations that Greg wants them in is a real loss to not the hardcore fans. Hardcore fans can figure out what the formation is. You look at the players and you go, oh, I know what's playing. But for the people who are maybe on the edge of trying to figure out what tactics are, it's imperative.
Me.
Yeah, I know, right? It's imperative that you show some of these formations and how people are lining up, because not only that, but just the morphs that happen. I mean, Sasha Kleshin corrected me because he's allowed to. Everybody's allowed to correct me. Yeah, he is. And Greg also, in some ways, will correct me whenever I talk about it. But Greg is not a big believer in sort of formations just because everything morphs and it changes and you attack in a different formation than you defend. Understood. But in basics, you can attack in a formation, and in basics, you can defend in a formation, and giving that information to people doesn't hurt anything. There's nothing that you're losing in all that. So for me, the Galaxy putting a list up and saying, here are the players, and it's just a list, it loses that. And I want to see them be better than that. And that's my biggest critique so far of any of the social media stuff that comes out, is show the formations whenever it's starting lineups. Because I'll tell you right now, MLS gets it wrong all the time. MLS had the LA Galaxy starting in a 4-4-2 against RSL, and they absolutely did not start in a 4-4-2 against RSL. They started in a 4-2-3-1, which is their base formation. Then they went to a 4-4-2, and then they finished in a 3-5-2. So you can't trust the league to get it because they don't watch all the games like you and I do. And even some days, the Nashville game, so that's an interesting one. Cabral started that game, right? They started in a 4-4-2. Even though it doesn't necessarily, even with Cabral, you're like, no, there's no way they played. They did. It was a modified 4-4-2, but it was a 4-4-2. They wanted that forward presence because they knew that Nashville was going to sit tight, right? So there was all these things that happened. But that's important information for fans to have, and you should be able to get it on your phone before the game and be like, oh, the Galaxy, look out, they're playing in the 4-4-2. Cool. Cabral's going to play in this half space that Greg likes to put him in sometimes, somewhere between a winger and a forward, right? So that's important. That was my knock on
Josh,
the Galaxy.
You're preaching to the choir. I've been moaning about that the last 20 years. Where you read these lineups where like, oh, okay, he's going to be at right back, and so many times they get the lineups wrong where the left back's at the right back and the right back's playing the center forward, and you're just like, come on, people. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it would be nice just to have a framework of understanding for people to
It's a starting spot. It doesn't.
Exactly.
It's not a be all end all. It's a starting spot.
And that's, you know what? To the almighty God that you and Kevin were speaking of, Galaxy Folklore, Bruce Arena, it's a thing for television graphics.
Yeah, it is.
Let them go out and play, and I let my boys play they want. Well, yes, there is certain. He's being a little bit more simplified about this. He had a 4-4-2 philosophy, Bruce Arena, if there ever was one. But to his point, it's It's just a framework.
I love how the people who I just said are super fans don't care about the formations. Like, the people who are in the chat room are not the people that I am trying to address this to. And all of you like, just watch the game. You can tell what the formation is. It's like, yeah, you guys know because you watch the Galaxy all the time. That's exactly the point. I'm not talking about you guys. Nobody in this chat room should care about a lineup graphic.
Well, I found fascinating is trying to decipher what was going on with Alvarez and Costa.
Where are they playing? You know?
I mean, we were expecting Costa to play underneath, and that's where he finished against Nashville. And so it was a continuation of that. And then, lo and behold, you're seeing Efra drift central, which is his tendency. And I always want to say Diego Douglas.
Yeah, I know.
Drifting to right. But yeah, so I don't know. So I could tactical dork it out with you all day long, but
always fun.
To sleep. So I apologize. My bad.
Always fun to do it. No, it's good. Let's look at the standings real quick, just that way you can sort of set up this weekend's match, which is the number 2 and the number 3 team in the Western Conference.
Wait, Josh, real quick.
Yeah.
As bad as everybody's playing, and
yes.
we're saying it's not the best. We're in third place, 6 points off the pace.
Oh, you want to play the same? You want to play the same game that I played all day on Monday with Kevin, who was like negative Nancy again, where he was like, oh no, the whole deal. Listen, remember, there's no central attacking midfielder. I think they need one. I think they need another creative presence at least in the midfield somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I'm all about the summer. Agreed. And what you get for $1.6 million in max TAM. We believe they still have a max TAM spot available. But I'm also like, I'll deal with Victor Vasquez in that position until the summer. Because right now, the LA Galaxy, with the way they're playing defense, will win games. I'm not concerned. They're going to find goals. They're going to win some games. Now, are they going to be the finished product that you expect them to be whenever, August comes around? No. And I don't expect them to. But I see this team building into things. I see them building into understanding. And Vanney runs complex formations and complex, I don't want to say like programs, right? He has
philosophy.
His philosophy is not simple, right? Yeah. You can simplify it down to start with. And then as you get more and more in tune with it, you can start tweaking. And it's about understanding movements from other players. It's about knowing when to press. It's about knowing when to fall. He's big on transition defense and how you stop a transition before it gets out of hand. So that way you can do it. And it's about, that team defense mentality. Those are general thoughts, but his systems are complex whenever he wants them to be. And he's getting to the point where he's starting to instill more of that with this Galaxy team. Last year, nothing. You didn't see it. Right? That was very base. It was very vanilla because he was just trying to get everybody to understand what he sort of wanted from him in that base sense. But now that you're progressing, watch the triangles that develop. Watch the, the movements. Yeah, the structure and the movement off the ball is so much better now. Now, it hasn't been in the last couple games because they've been playing so slow, but you want to see that movement more, and you want to see people pressing in behind the lines. I think the biggest thing they're missing for me, Christian, is still that pass in behind the line. Finding a winger out behind the line. Finding Chicharito behind the line. Yeah. Finding Joveljic behind the line. They lack that. They lack that ball right now.
And they have the players that can get in behind. They have the pace in those players, like a Grand Seer. They have got a player like Cabral that can get in behind. And trying to get them, and again, we're coming back to be able to play that. Also, too, Josh, and kind of speaks to a supporting point of your point, is the tempo has to be quicker.
Yeah.
They had their feet stuck in the mud. It was plodding, methodical, whatever you want to call it, and it can't play that. The Galaxy are at their best, playing at tempo, playing at pace, and stretching and pulling. And we always hear Vanney talk about pulling defenders out of position.
Right.
Even when they throw everybody in the box and they throw the kitchen sink, right? They don't cross. They don't whip crosses in, which a lot of teams will do, and just pray for that second ball. He wants to keep it on the floor and pull these guys out of position and find those nooks and crannies, which they were doing to great effect against Nashville late on. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how that will develop.
I will say the chat room did get some of my concerns about the summer as well. And Living Color says, that they basically don't trust this front office to find the right guy. There's questions about, looking at guys like Cabral and saying, oh, well, he was definitely the right guy. I will say this, that I think they've hit more than they've missed, although I think the Costa one could be a costly miss. Have I told you? Do you know that every player has a hyperlink in Major League Soccer? Like if you're going to type in the player's page, like Major League Soccer page, every player, if I wanted to type you in as a player and you were a player in Major League Soccer, I would type in mlssoccer.com/players with an S / your first name, Christian, with a dash and Miles, your last name. Okay, that's every player follows that formula. So if I want to look up Giassi's artist, I don't have to like go to the players page and then click Giassi's artist and then go to, where Colorado's page and like find Giassi's artist and do all that stuff. I can just, it's a shortcut for me because I go and look up players all the time, like Javi or Douglas, to pull stats and to do different things. So the whole deal. Did you know Douglas Costa's one isn't spelled right? So his hyperlink isn't Costa, it's Cost. Cost. And as I look, and he costs $5 million roughly a year is what we're guessing it is. I find that interesting that I wonder if somebody in the league did it on purpose. Be like, this guy's going to cost the LA Galaxy a lot of money. And did Douglas dash cost is his hyperlink.
It's like very bad data dad jokes.
Yes, it feels that way, right? And every time I type it in, I just shake my head. I'm like, it's Cost. I can't believe it's Cost. Like, is somebody going to fix this?
But to the point, we talked about the beginning of the season. And I said it to you when you had me on and everyone else, high risk, high reward with Douglas Costa. And I stand by that. And the guy's got all the ability in the world, but we haven't seen it. And I think it's been in fleeting, really small glimpses. It's there. But, man, he is so far off the pace, fitness-wise, that I'm concerned. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I think everybody should be. You need to see. I would be okay if he was maybe
it's
a better...
early days.
It is, and he's played 9 games with the Galaxy. Actually, less than that because he hasn't even been available for all those games. But early days on that, I usually give people like the big base majority of a season to really get comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Got to give him the new country, doesn't speak the language, new system. I mean, you got to give him the year. And
you have, and the Galaxy are, because they're going to, I think they have him basically for 2 years. So his 6-month loan, by the way, is almost up. And then he's basically, he has the rest of the year, which is 6 months. And then he'll play the entire next year. So at the end of 2023, he should, his contract should be up. So that's where we're looking. Galaxy in 3rd place. Let's talk about this Austin game. LA Galaxy headed to Q2 Stadium in Austin, Texas. This game is on FS1 and Fox Deportes. This game is a 4 p.m. TV start time. It's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff time. This is on Sunday on Mother's Day, so just keep that in mind whenever you're getting ready for this particular game. Christian, anything that you want to sort of start to approach whenever you talk about this Austin game?
Oh my God! Well, I think we beat it to death earlier, but weather the storm. I think the first 15 minutes are going to be crucial, and I know it's very cliche, but the way Josh is playing, the Josh Wolf's team is playing right now, and they get on you from the get-go. They jump out early. They like to get on the front foot and get it wide, and the mobility, and he's got the players to suit his system. So that first 15 minutes is going to be brutal, and the weather is going to be brutal as well. Look at these tactical set. I mean, we're 99 degrees, and
hold on. Let me see if I can do it. Hey Siri, what's the weather in Austin, Texas this weekend?
Expect both partly cloudy skies and clear skies in Austin, Texas this weekend. Daytime temperatures will hover around 99 degrees, with overnight lows around 73 degrees.
Yeah, there you go. So
it's
99
chilly,
degrees.
73 degrees at night.
Yeah, and listen, this is a 6:30 roughly kickoff time, local kickoff time in Texas. And so I would imagine it comes down off the 101 a bit, but you're still going to probably be in the mid to low 90s, I'm guessing, whenever you kick this game off. I asked Greg Vanney about it today, and he sort of go watch the video. I'll eventually post the video. Everybody can watch the video, and if the Galaxy post it and talk about it. But I said, hey, Greg, basically, it's going to be 100. It's supposed to be like 100, 101 degrees there, or something like that. And he sort of was like, yikes! Like either he didn't know, or he knew, and he was just confirming that he knew that it was going to be really, really warm this weekend. Usually, those guys start sort of preparing for all that stuff on Wednesday, so I imagine he knew and everything like that. But really hot weather. We talked about Urruti. We talked about Juriusi, who is the league leader in goals right now. He has 7. He's tied with Jimenez with Toronto. Diego Fagundes has 6 assists, which is one more obviously than Raheem Edwards has, and so he's leading. So Austin leads the league in goals and in assists in terms of their players being on that front. And if I remember correctly, on sort of the goal scoring, they've scored the most goals I think in Major League Soccer with 22. Yep. And so that's a lot.
That's 12 more than the Galaxy, and they've only allowed 1 more than the Galaxy. So we're talking about how great they are on the front foot. This is a team that's actually putting together solid defensive performances right now that shouldn't be overlooked. And I think it's kind of glossed over by, the players like Driussi, like the players like Fagundes. They're tough to break down, which they weren't last year. You saw them start to get their footing, about 3/4 of the way through last season under Wolf's philosophy. I'm really surprised. I didn't know Josh Wolf as a player in terms of his cerebral aspects or whatever, his managerial instincts, but he's done fantastic work with Austin. For me, he's been, he's blown the doors off, and more power to him. Great fan support, tough place to play. It's not going to be easy. A huge test. I mean, both teams have played 9 games, and the gulf between them in terms of attack is about as big as it can get.
Yeah, it is. If you remember last year, LA Galaxy and Austin FC, the first year with Austin in the league, Austin beat the Galaxy 2-0 at home, and then the Galaxy at home beat Austin 2-0. So they've traded those back and forth. They said Austin FC has won 4 straight MLS matches for the first time in club history, and Austin reached the 20-point mark in 9 games this season after needing 26 games to get to that plateau in 2021. The Galaxy won 3-0 in Houston in October last season, in the most recent game that was played in Texas. So you can sort of say, okay, there's something there a little bit. Driussi scored his 7th goal of the season in Austin wins over Houston. Again, I don't know if all the Texas teams are pretenders, but I tend to not believe in most of them. And Houston and Dallas certainly are question marks. But we've talked about this LA Galaxy schedule. We've talked about how difficult it will be this month, and the Galaxy basically are playing their second of 3 away games, if you count the Cal United game, which is an Open Cup game coming up next week. That is also going to be an away game before they finally get a home game against FC Dallas. Then it's funny because they're going to be playing against Minnesota, and Chase Gasper is going to basically get a chance to face his own team almost immediately. So there's some of that stuff in there as well. And we talk about Houston. So Austin twice, you have Dallas in there, you have Minnesota, and you have Houston, and there's a Cal United game in there as well. This is a very, very busy month. Greg Vanney talked about that, saying that everybody needs to just, take it one game at a time, which is a cliche, but with this many games, you need to take it one game at a time and sort of really see that. What the Galaxy need here, Christian, is a convincing win where they're able to rest guys starting in about the 75th minute, where you don't have to drag everybody out to 90 minutes, where the game isn't in question with the last 10 minutes of game, so you can't rest guys like Chicharito or other things like that. You need to get some guys some bench minutes. I think you'd expect, quote unquote, a very B team going against Cal United as well. So all of these things are sort of adding up to a very busy next month, and certainly a tough game in Austin. So
absolutely. And also too, what we need is a comprehensive 90 minutes where we impose our will and ensure the results, so we can bring on a Joveljic, on at halftime or something, and rest Chicharito. Which would be very interesting to see if we could see a Joveljic in that Chicharito role and how he plays as the number 9 with a Cabral or what have you, or a Grancier or an Alvarez. When you put together a 90-minute performance like that, that's what will be able to allow you to do the luxury to make those substitutions. And we just haven't seen that. The Galaxy haven't really comprehensively outplayed anybody this season.
No.
If you want to, throw results out the window. When was the last time 90 minutes they have comprehensively outplayed somebody, whether it be against lesser opposition or better opposition? We have not seen that. We need that result, whether it's against the worst team in the league right now, or the best team in the league. So now's as good a chance as any.
It's funny because you look at some of the games I think last year that they played the best, quote unquote, the best, were in losses, like games against Sporting Kansas City last year, games against Seattle last year, where they played the best that they have played, but they lose those games, and that can't be the situation. I'm with you. In imposing some will on a team is a good way to go on this. Let's go to 538 and just the chances and where they're sort of leaving Austin with a chance to win, the Galaxy with a chance to win, a chance of a tie. 40% chance of Austin to win at home makes sense. They're undefeated at home. They're second in the Western Conference. I can sort of see that in terms of how it is, but it's not as lopsided as maybe you would expect it with a team that is, quote unquote, so good at home. You're only a 7% difference here. So 33% chance for the LA Galaxy to win that game, 27% chance for a draw. I find those odds actually really close. This is more of a toss-up whenever you sort of take out the quote-unquote home field advantage that Austin has than I think everybody expects it to. And maybe it should be with a 2 versus a 3 and relatively close in the standings, but it's a clash of styles right now with Austin very much a throw it all forward and score lots of goals, and the LA Galaxy very much, at least right now, a defense-first team that's looking for sort of goals on the counter more often than not when they don't play against teams that sit back. This is a team that's going to come after him, Christian.
Yeah.
This is a chance for the LA Galaxy to very much play that counter-attacking role, which I think they do well sometimes.
I agree. They do look very much at their strengths and at their best. It's also too. I believe their home schedule has flattered their record personally. I mean, they beat up on FC Cincinnati. They beat up on Miami, putting 10 past those 2 and 5 in each game. And, to their credit, they held Seattle to a goalless draw, but, wins against Minnesota and Vancouver. Look, you can only play the opponents there in front of you, but the schedule has been kind to them. So you have to take that with a grain of salt at this point. And I think similar to what the Galaxy are facing, this is where the schedule really heats up for Austin right now, because not only they have to take on the Galaxy, then they have to play Real Salt Lake on the road, LAFC on the road, and then go home to an Orlando team that socked it to LA about a month ago with a clean sheet victory on the road. So
right,
it's not going to be easy. So I think the schedule has been kind to them. It's flattered them. I think now this is where their contender and pretender status will be sorted out.
Right. Yeah. It at least starts to be. And that, by the way, a $2 super chat from the Hammer himself. He says, Cabral brace, it's time. Shout out to Christian Miles there as well. So, Eric, I'm not talking to him right now because I was in Texas and could have had, dinner with Eric. But of course, he was not there. He was in California. So I'm done visiting Texas. I tried to do all that stuff. So
I'm kind of sad. My appearance on COG, Corner of the Galaxy podcast, the $2 super chat, begging for a sugar daddy.
Right, that's what we need. Herb in the chat room for sure. That's what always gets.
Or sugar mama,
everybody.
whoever.
Yeah.
I don't care. Anybody.
Yeah, we don't care. It's not how it goes. Anyway, let's. For me, my predictions. I could very well see the LA Galaxy losing this game. I don't like how it sets up for them, just in terms of how they're playing right now. I know. I can be negative. It's what do I expect from this team? I don't know that I expect
You're
a full
Josh Guesman.
Yeah, well, full energy, like a full energy 90-minute performance in that heat for them. And yes, it's going to be something that absolutely plays a part in it. I would like to see Greg Vanney start in a 4-2-3-1. I want to see that base thing. I want to see Grandsir start.
Does Cabral start?
I wouldn't. I would start Grandsir, or excuse me, I'd start Grandsir in place of Cabral. I would let Costa start in the middle again. I don't know. Without Victor Vasquez, I'm not sure I have anything there to really do anything else. I don't want Alvarez to start in the middle. I don't like him there. I think he works better in space, so he has a little bit of space on that right hand side. I'm probably going to start Alvarez over there on the side. I would like to see a Cabral Grandsir start, but I don't know that.
What
Greg
about
would do
Jovic?
it. No. And I wouldn't start him. And everybody, I don't care. People are going to hate me for that. Not in this game. I'm telling you, the Dallas game is the game where if you want to see the Galaxy do something goofy, they're going to do something goofy. They may start in a 3-5-2 against Dallas, like something like that, because I could see them playing 3 center backs. I could see them moving Araujo and Edwards in there. You're going to end up dropping guys, though, when you do that. When you move into a 3-5-2, you lose some guys. You have Ravelison in there. You need to have Delgado in there, so you only have room for a couple of guys outside of that, because you're going to put Jovic in there. He takes somebody's spot, too, right? All of a sudden, things start cascading, so you may have a game where you have Cabral and Costa starting on the bench when the Galaxy move into like a 3-5-2.
Yeah, you know what? I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet. I mean, our friend Chris Tucker's put out a really good starting graphic, and I can't recall at the top of my head, but Chris put out a good graphic, and I'm sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, damn, that makes real good sense right about it now. It does. It's hard to argue against it.
Yeah,
and the personnel is there for the Galaxy to play that type of system, and Vanney's talked about it. We haven't seen it from the get-go yet. And
right, no.
Could this be the weekend? I mean, against a team like Austin, probably not.
Right, that's the thing. To me, it's a Dallas. It's a home game.
Do that.
It's a home game. It's going to be a home game if he's going to try it for the first time. I'm telling you, it's going to be in a position where they think they can assert dominance over a team, and I think they can do that at home against Dallas.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so by the way, Mr. Provino says it should be a 2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2. He probably had the right amount of twos in there, but it's too many for me. I'm just going to call it a 4-4-2.
Who says that?
That was Mr. Provino in the chat room. It was good. I like it. He knows that I hate it when people put too many twos into a formation. Like it means something. It doesn't. It's a 4-4-2. I'm not stupid.
It's like Ralph Rangnick speak at Manchester United. He's like 4-2-2-2-2-2.
Yeah, we're just gonna have twos all the way.
I mean, sorry, that's just a bunch of horse. You know what?
Yeah.
How about Koulibaly, Williams,
yes.
Gasper, Ravelson, Delgado in the hole, Araujo at wing back, Edwards at wing back, with Vasquez as your 10, and then Chicha and Joveljic. This is, I'm going to give full props to Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
Put this up on Twitter. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's not bad.
No, it's not. I see. Here's the thing. I always think Greg will morph into those more aggressive formations, but I always have him starting in maybe a little more conservative side. I'm just waiting for him to start one game though, where he's going to be like, no, we're changing. Who can they throw off by really doing that? And I think that's where he's going to.
Gasper's not starting. Let's just get that out.
Yeah.
That's the only bone I would have to pick with Tugger, but Gasper's not going to get the start, obviously.
Gasper. By the way, somebody asked. Gasper is available for selection this weekend. He did train with the LA Galaxy today. He arrived at 1 a.m. and trained with the LA Galaxy today. I don't know if I said that. I know I told you beforehand, but I can't remember if I said it on the show. So, by the way, now we're getting how about the 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. See, we can keep playing this game. What's a 2-2? One less than a 3-3. There's another good dad joke for you. So anyway, so
the 1-9-1.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Put everybody forward. Sometimes it'll work. Anyway,
Steve Sampson tried that.
He could have. He very well could have. All right. Your predictions? You think the Galaxy are in a better shape? I said they could lose.
I say score draw.
Okay. So
I mean, when I say score draw, I don't put any numbers on it. There's going to be goals in this game. The Galaxy, I think they awakened from their slumber. I really think this is the game where we see a major shakeup in the approach and in the tactics from the maestro Greg Vanney, and I think it's the time. I think it's the time of the season where we need it too. Something needs to be freshened up, but also too, this is an Austin team that will get their goals too.
I think the XG for the LA Galaxy in this game goes over 2. I agree with you. I think that they have a chance at some goals in this game. I think there's going to be space to play. And I think they're going to be forced to play quicker, which is what Greg wants anyway. So
I keep rotating this because I want Larry, who's been so critical of my backdrop, to understand that I've been trying to spruce up my.
You've been working on it
/ insane asylum.
Yeah, no, I think you've been doing a good job.
I'm trying. There's a bed for me when I get tired. And I need a break, Larry.
From the podcast, you can just lay down. Okay, I understand.
Catch my Galaxy wind, after dorking out on the computer for so long. So
there you go.
Slowly coming together.
All right, very good. All right, hey, I think that about does it. I just want to tell everybody again, game coming up on Sunday, so make sure that all the moms out there have given you permission to watch the game. Do all your chores, make sure she's happy, and hey, maybe you're lucky and you have one of those.
Sunday.
Yeah, it's a Sunday game. Yeah, I'm telling you, it is right in mom time there. So I hope everybody gets permission. By the way, so I said this in our Discord, and I got a couple of the ladies responded, I can't wait to go to the game, the whole day. I'm like, or I can't wait to watch the game. And I'm like, absolutely. But I've seen my demographics, and we're like 97% male. So for the most part, it's the guys wanting to do it. So, by the way, Aaron would like one last time before we go for you to say Koulibaly's last name.
No,
and only the way that you could say it.
Stop it. Aaron.
I love it. All right, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Christian, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and then we'll go.
You can find me at C Mile Sports on Twitter. You can find me streaming rugby from Glendale, Colorado this weekend on Saturday. And also you can find me at LAGalaxy.com calling games and Sirius XM 157 for all Galaxy home games on radio when I'm Joe Totino's stuntman.
There you go. Very good. Well, we always appreciate you stopping by, so thanks for that. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course, at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over, cornerthegalaxy.com. We'll upload that media call that happened today. All right? Good. Glad everybody had a wonderful time. I'm glad I got here in time to have a live show at 8. So we made it happen. We made it work. We'll be back on Monday. Galaxy play Austin on Sunday. Busy week next week as well. All right. For Mr. Christian Miles, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.